Coming up tonight on YCN News, the GOP regains control of the U.S. Senate in yesterday's elections. Results are in for many local races across New Hampshire and Vermont. And a fire in Royalton, Vermont claims the lives of 23 animals. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth-Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening, and welcome to this Wednesday edition of YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Nationally, Republicans got their wish with the GOP regaining control of the U.S. Senate yesterday. Now the Republicans will control both houses in Congress. Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell is expected to be the new Senate president. New leaders tend to pick their own committee heads, which could affect Vermont Senator Patrick Leahy. Leahy is the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. The change in Senate leadership may mean Leahy will lose his chairmanship, but becomes the ranking member on that panel. In New Hampshire, the Republican National Party did not get its way. Incumbent Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen prevailed, winning the seat over GOP hopeful and former U.S. Senator from Massachusetts, Scott Brown. It remained a close race throughout the night. In the end, Shaheen prevailed, earning 51.8% of all ballots cast. Brown captured 48.2%. In numbers of ballots counted, that's 245,439 for Shaheen, and for Brown, 228,444. The race for governor in New Hampshire and Vermont also drew much attention. Democrat Maggie Hassan gets a second term per New Hampshire voters, defeating Republican Walt Havenstein. Hassan won by 53% of all votes cast. Havenstein captured 47% of ballots. In all, 255,047 ballots were marked for Hassan compared to 230,065 for Havenstein. Vermonters will have to wait until its state legislature returns to Montpelier in January before voting results are made official. That's because incumbent Democratic Governor Peter Shumlin did not win at least a 50% majority yesterday over Republican candidate Scott Milne. The Associated Press is reporting Shumlin won the race by 2,088 votes. Shumlin received 46.42% of all votes cast. For Milne, it was 45.35%. The total number of ballots marked for Shumlin, that's 89,874. For Milne, it's 87,786. Vermont Public Radio reports that typically each time the legislature has chosen the winner, it's been the person receiving the most votes. In a statement today, Milne says the voting results are proof that Vermonters are looking for new leadership. Shumlin thanks all residents who came out to vote yesterday and says he remains confident of the outcome. Taking a regional look at other gubernatorial races, it was a mixed bag throughout New England. Massachusetts elected a Republican governor, Charlie Baker, over the state's Attorney General and Democrat Martha Coakley. Maine re-elected a conservative Republican, Paul LePage. Democrat incumbent Governor Daniel Malloy appears to be the winner in Connecticut. GOP challenger Tom Foley says his campaign staff is double-checking the results before conceding the race, the Hartford Courant reports. Rhode Island voters helped make history in their choice yesterday of the state's first woman governor, Democrat and former state treasurer Gina Raimondo. Raimondo defeated Republican challenger and Cranston Mayor Alan Fung. If Fung had been elected, he would have been the state's first Asian American governor, reports the Providence Journal. Voter turnout was another thing to watch, with more people going to the polls than perhaps expected in a non-presidential election year. In Sullivan County, New Hampshire, 60% of registered voters in Claremont went to the polls. A top draw in that city's race was whether the charter would be changed to allow for an elected and paid mayor and elected board of aldermen. The measure failed by a greater than 2-to-1 margin. Results from all of Claremont's 3 wards were 2,726 against the change to 1,023 in favor. In Grantham, 65% of registered voters cast ballots. In Sunapee, turnout was 62%. Turning to the Upper Valley and to Grafton County, about 50% of registered voters in Lebanon cast ballots. Out of 9,611 people eligible to vote, 4,778 did so. Not all town offices throughout our broadcast region are open today. YCN News will post election results and the percentage of ballots cast throughout this week. In the New Hampshire State Senate District 8 race, it appears with all votes tallied that Republican Jerry Little defeated Democrat Linda Tanner. This seat was held for at least a decade by GOP State Senator Bob Odell. It was a rematch of the March election for the two candidates for Executive Council District 1. Republican and incumbent Joe Kinney of Wakefield ran against Democrat and candidate for Grafton County Commissioner Michael Cryans of Hanover. Kinney held on to the seat earlier held by many years by the late Ray Burton. Kinney claims 52% of all votes cast compared to Cryans' 48%. Total votes cast with all 116 precincts in this vast region reporting were 48,893 for Kinney, 45,968 for Cryans. Another race of interest takes us to Merrimack County. There, the race between Democrat Dan Feltes and Republican Lydia Dubé-Harmon for New Hampshire State Senate District 15. Feltes captured 65% of the vote, reports the Concord Monitor, with 13,311 total ballots. Harmon's 35% equates to 7,222 total votes. District 15 serves Concord, Henniker, Hopkinton, and Warner. It was held for many years by Democratic State Senate President Sylvia Larson. The two congressional races in New Hampshire finished with incumbent Democrat Ann McLean Custer defeating GOP and Tea Party favorite Mary Linda Garcia in the District 2 race. This margin between Custer and Garcia was 55% to 45%. On the other side of the state, near the seacoast, Republican Frank Ginta reclaims the seat from incumbent Democrat Carol Shea Porter. The final tally comes to 52% for Ginta and 48% for Shea Porter. Besides electing people yesterday, voters in two Vermont communities marked ballots on bond issues. In Hartford, Vermont, voters turned down a $3.5 million bond proposal to build a new track and recreation facility at the high school. The Valley News reports the vote failed by 59%, or 1,742 no votes to 1,203 votes. In Windsor, Vermont, however, voters approved a bond to repair infrastructure at the historic Mill Pond Dam. Total votes in support of the bond were 691 in favor, 202 against. The estimated cost to repair the dam is $2 to $2.5 million. The proposed funding is $995,000 in state grant funds and $1.5 million in proposed town bond funds. There are other issues to be aware of, namely home safety. Besides turning the clocks back this time of year, check the batteries in all of your home's fire and carbon monoxide detectors. Remind the state fire marshals of Vermont and New Hampshire. When YCN News returns, a fire in Royalton, Vermont claims the lives of 23 animals, and the town of Brattleboro begins its review of the fiscal year 2016 budget.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. The cause of a fire in Royalton, Vermont remains undetermined, and Vermont fire inspectors have ruled as such. Damages to the Royalton Farms LLC are estimated to be about $1 million. The early morning fire at the recently restored farm and nearby buildings killed 23 animals. There was no loss of human life, the Valley News reports. Investigators seek the public's help in learning more about the fire. Contact the South Royalton, Vermont Department at 802-763-8133. Turning to Windham County, Vermont, it's the start of the fiscal year 2016 budget review for the town of Brattleboro. Interim Town Manager Patrick Moreland is proposing a $15.4 million budget, the Brattleboro Reformer reports. The proposal would add less than a penny to the tax rate, yet not all needed expenses are budgeted. There's a new Vermont state law that will go into effect requiring cities and towns to adopt a pay-as-you-throw rubbish plan. In the budget the Brattleboro Select Board is eyeing, there is no money yet included for solid waste expenses. About $1 million more is needed for these costs, the newspaper reports. When YCN News returns, we'll hear from Kearsarge Chronicles' Lynn Solomon, who met with David Allman, director of Kearsarge Chorale.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Now Matt McDonald will have a look at our weather for the next few days and then move on to sports.
Thanks, Rose. Tonight we'll have partly cloudy skies with lows around 39 degrees. Tomorrow we have a 50% chance of showers afternoon with increasing clouds and highs in the 50s. Tomorrow night we'll have winds around 5 miles per hour with a low of 41 degrees and an 80% chance of rain. Friday we'll have cloudy skies with a 50% chance of rain before 4 p.m. Highs will be around 45 degrees with winds up to 10 miles per hour. Friday night will be mostly cloudy with lows in the upper 20s. Now let's see what's coming up in our community calendar. This Friday, Mascoma High School in Canaan, New Hampshire will show the Divine Sister play at 7 p.m. Also at 7 p.m., the Sunapee Methodist Church will hold a coffee house featuring pianist, singer-songwriter Heather Pearson. In Vermont, the Bellows Falls Opera House will host a Mavis Staples concert from 7:30 to 11:30 p.m. In Brattleboro, the Brooks Memorial Library will have a Hungry Town concert at 7:30 p.m. Remember, you can submit local events from your community by sending them to news@ycnnow.com. Turning to local sports, there were no games involving our local teams yesterday. However, there are 2 important tournament games to look out for tomorrow. In the Division II girls soccer tournament, number 1 seeded Hanover will face number 4 seeded Portsmouth at Stellos Stadium at 6 p.m. The girls soccer Division IV game will feature number 2 seeded Sunapee and number 3 Derryfield. This game will take place at Laconia High School at 4 p.m. Be sure to watch and support your local teams.
Thanks, Matt. When YCN News continues, we'll join Capital Connections' John O'Connor.
The YCN News continues in a moment.